President. I want to speak on this issue of the energy problem we find ourselves in, and I want to begin just by a moment of reflection upon the comments by my dear colleague from Minnesota. The fact of the matter is that the more we can find a way to work together, and the less and we can make clever rhetorical points about whether one party is on full and another one is on empty or anything else, I think the quicker we're going to get to a solution. The fact is, we're not going to find a solution to the energy problem of America by doing it as Democrats or as Republicans. We're going to find it by working together as Americans. And the fact of the matter is that we all know that when the minority is not permitted the opportunity to impact a bill by amendments, that then therefore there's not a real debate taking place. And therefore our ideas, the ideas of 49 members of this Senate, are not worth considering. And we all know that that's not the way the Senate legislates, that that is not the way that when you're serious about an outcome and not just looking to make political points, that that's not how you do things. But we are for sure in the midst of an energy crisis like nothing we've seen in recent times. A gallon of gas is more than $4, a gallon of diesel more than $5, and natural gas prices continue on the rise. These high prices are putting an unexpected and heavy burden on millions of American families. As I talk, number of Floridians, as I talk to them, it is clear that people are feeling the pain and families are hurting. The costs are digging into the family budget. In addition to high energy costs, we're also in the midst of increasing food costs, putting an even greater strain on families that are growing increasingly anxious. They want and deserve solutions. They don't want and don't deserve partisan bickering. There are a number of factors impacting the price of gas, including the influence of speculators and a weak dollar. We're seeing a large and increasing demand for fuel while supplies remain stagnant. Since the automobile was invented, it took the United States until the early 1980s to reach 100 million cars. In China, the same thing, 100 million cars, happened in less than 15 years. According to the International Energy Agency, Chinese oil imports are expected to rise 80% in the next 4 years. And by the way, while speaking of the Chinese, we know they're looking for ways to increase their own oil production, but despite what is cited as fact here in the Senate and in other places, China is not drilling off the coast of Cuba. I've taken the time to research this issue because it created some interest in me because of my own interest in this area of the world. And according to the Congressional Research Service, China only owns one plot where they could explore. Happens to be this little green spot right here, number 3. And whether it's under production or not, that's not clear, but it is for sure on land and not offshore. This was also confirmed by the University of Miami Center for Hemispheric Policy, and the fellow at that center, Jorge Piñon, who said that there is no drilling taking place offshore in Cuba by the Chinese or, according to my sources, by any other country. Reports to the contrary are simply false. They're rumor. They're akin to urban legends. China drilling off the coast of Cuba only 60 miles from the Keys. That is not taking place. To my knowledge, there's only one company, the Spanish company Repsol, that has purchased a lease off Cuba's shore, and they tell me that they have no current plans for any production there in the foreseeable future. There is a possibility that the Canadians may have something happening there, but I'm not aware of that either. So any talk of using some fabricated China-Cuba connection as an argument to change U.S. policy, in my view, has no merit. To address the supply side of the equation, one solution I have always favored involves using our existing natural resources to increase domestic production. Congress has made some progress in this area in recent years, but more needs to be done. Offshore drilling is one area where we've made progress. In 2006, I helped to negotiate the opening of more than 8 million acres in the Gulf of Mexico. 8 million acres in the Gulf of Mexico. This entire area in the light brown here was open to oil and gas exploration in the year 2006 as a result of the conversations and negotiations on a bipartisan basis that we had here in the Senate. This area is estimated to contain 5.8 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 1.25 billion barrels of oil, all right here, all open to exploration, all in the Gulf of Mexico, all as a result of an agreement that we made here in the Senate, Senator Nelson and I, protecting Florida's beaches, but yet understanding the need for supply and opening this vast area of the Gulf. It's a tremendous amount of resource. While 8 million acres have been opened in the Gulf to date, no exploration that I know of has taken place. I know they're still in the process of leasing and whatnot, but to date we have had no product out of that area. It would make a lot of sense to me that we would go here first, well away from Florida's beaches, before we would go into this area here where we have a military mission area to protect, as well as Florida's coastline to protect, and yet this is yet there for exploration, for exploitation, and it has not taken place to date. I would say go there first before we get any closer to the state of Florida. But in addition to that, I know another promising domestic resources anwar in Alaska. On 5 different occasions in my Senate career, I have voted to open this remote area for oil exploration. It is environmentally safe, the people of Alaska favor it, and our country needs it. I will continue to support efforts to obtain resources from this area. The size of the land we're talking about for exploration is a mere 2,000 acres within a 19.6 million acre wilderness that is the virtual equivalent to a quarter on a football field. Estimates indicate this area of Alaska contains approximately 10.4 billion barrels, meaning we could have another 1 million barrels coming into the U.S. supply every day for decades. I'll continue to support increasing the U.S. domestic production as long as it's supported by those most directly impacted by it. Along with working to increase U.S. oil exploration efforts, there is also a tremendous need to build more oil refineries. Part of the reason why our supplies are stretched thin is because the rise in demand for gasoline and a new fuel refinery has not been built in this country for now 3 decades. Once crude oil is shipped from overseas, still has to be refined. So with few oil refineries in this country and the demand so high, this results in a bottleneck and further contributes to the domestic demand that is continuing to outstrip supply. We can do a great deal more in the short term to alleviate the burden of high prices on the American family. An integral part of any energy plan is moving forward has to focus on conservation. We're not going to drill our way to energy independence. We have to have a comprehensive approach, more exploration, more conservation, renewable biofuels, and also new technologies. We're paying high prices at the pump for that demand, and it is also something we're paying for environmentally as well. I think there is huge promise in answering some of our energy demands and contributing to a cleaner environment by investing in alternative fuels. In addition to ethanol, Florida is doing a great deal of research in our universities on cellulosic ethanol, which is a second-generation biofuel. This process generates fuels from waste, orange peels, grass clipping, corn stalks. All of these things can add to a cleaner and better energy future. One thing should be clear: the tension in the world oil markets isn't going to lessen anytime soon, and the need to lessen the U.S. dependence on foreign oil couldn't be any greater. This Congress has been absent on the matter. The fact of the matter is we talk about President Bush and what he has and hasn't done. We have an obligation to act as well. The fact of the matter is when the Democrats took over the Congress, the price of oil was at $2 a barrel or $2 a gallon. Today it's over $4 and going up. We got to put down the partisan rhetoric. We've got to come back to the fact that we must work together, Republicans and Democrats, to do what serious legislating usually can accomplish when people of good faith come together to try to get something done. I invite my dear friend and colleague, the presiding officer today, to find ways that we might work together so that we can help the American family. The fact of the matter is that I know there are many things in which we can agree. We ought to try to diminish the points of disagreement, find the common ground, and move forward to a better energy future for our country so that we might leave the kind of legacy to our children that I know is the reason we came here to the Senate in the first place. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the